Hey guys, I'm Duff McKagan. I'm very pleased to be here with Ken Downs,
Thank you very much, Duff. Yeah,
author of this amazing book, Darko. Um, Ken and I have known each other since probably 1980.
yeah, yeah. Since teenagers, probably.
Yep,
Yeah,
punk rock days.
yeah. That's right.
I'll probably let you tell your story a little bit more. I was honored to be able to read this book that you wrote. Um, a couple months ago, I guess now, maybe 6 weeks ago, and I
Yeah.
was blown away, absolutely blown away. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this book and your writing process. And yeah,
Well, we're in luck. It's the kind of stuff I like to talk about, Duff. So
yeah.
this is good. I'm proud of the book. I think it's an important book.
Darko is the story of a. We know her from birth, basically, a little
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah,
Um, we know her through the eyes of her protector, who's only a few years older than her.
yes.
So it opens up in
I King.
I King. From, hey, King!
Yeah,
Right. So she has a protector. We're going to let you guys read this book and get into it. But it's written from the viewpoint of her protector, whose name is King. He got the name I King because he'd be called on the street, hey, King! And it became I King,
yeah,
was his name. Brilliantly crafted from the viewpoint of this almost bodyguard, which he became later on to her.
he did.
And she is from. I keep saying this when I tell people about the book. She's the chosen one. She's one of the chosen ones that walk among us.
Yeah,
And, um,
destined to be an ascended master. This girl.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you go into that. The book opens up from the beginning, basically. She's a very little girl. I King is looking after her. It's New Orleans.
It is.
Not the best part of town.
Desire.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's going on?
Well, this is really the Joan of Arc story. It's the story of a modern day saint, a modern day Messiah, and it's like the Joan of Arc story. Johanny Darko, the protagonist in this story, is a modern day Joan of Arc figure, and the idea really came to me that we need somebody like this in today's world.
Can you tell me a little
Yeah.
bit? What you tell them what you told me about Joan of Arc. The story. She was 19. What she had done up to that point, and why she was killed.
Yeah, well, Joan of Arc was, somebody that I've been fascinated with for years. But Joan of Arc was a 14th, 15th century French girl. But, like Johanny Darko, she was illiterate. She was from poverty. She was incredibly young. And she started hearing what she called the voices came to her. And these were St. Margaret, St. Catherine. And they told her that, hey, you're the one that's going to lead us out of this 100 years war that we're in. And, she was so dynamic and so compelled that she became, still to this day, the youngest leader ever of a supreme leader of a major military force. And still that day.
And she really was. She brought
really
the
was.
crown back.
Brought
to
the
France.
crown back to France. Crowned the king of France. Got the independence from England after they'd been at war for 100 years. She was just a brilliant young woman. And Johanny Darko,
young. Okay.
And so
What happened
she
to
won.
her?
She won two major battles, major wars and battles, and was in battle herself. And went through all of this, and she was finally captured, and she was taken to trial, and they burned her at the stake. But finally, the thing that they could really pin on her was that she wore men's clothing, and that was why they finally got her for wearing men's clothing. And if you did it twice, once they warned you, if you did it again, then it was a capital punishment. And so she was burned at stake for that. And when she died, after all that history, she was 19 years old. And that's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. And so that's the story of Johanny Darko, that, why is it that with the social justice issues, the environmental justice issues, and sexism and racism and homophobia and xenophobia and nationalism and all of these problems that we have today, it's going to take somebody like a Joan of Arc. And why wouldn't it be a young girl from New Orleans who's illiterate, who's uneducated, who reluctantly goes along with these voices, because that's the way it was for Joan of Arc. And Johanny Darko is the same. Reluctantly, she goes along with, who am I to do this? And it's the same kind of thing that we all have. We all have this piece, like, who am I to do this great thing? Like, who am I to write this book, or to do the writing that you've done in your books, which is fantastic, by the way.
Well, thanks.
And so that's it. That was the seed that set this whole thing in motion.
It's a fantastic, I guess, germination. Like when you told me the story about Joan of Arc, and I think I was just starting this book. I texted Kenny and called him a few times while I was reading this book, because I was just as a fan of his writing, and I read a lot of books. That's been my hobby since for 26 years. So I was texting you and calling you, like, as a fan of your writing and a fan of the idea, the audaciousness of the simplicity of this story, and before she starts pushing back on the why is it me, I was kind of enraptured by her as a child, because she was too innocent to question it yet. You're part of the beginning of the book. She was too innocent to question it. She would just take refuge from all the things in her house and the
abuse,
moving around, the abuse.
And,
She would go into that synagogue that only had, maybe 4 members left in that crappy neighborhood, or the Catholic Church. But the woman rabbi, recognized it in her and let her just stay there.
Yeah.
Like, let her just hang. And the Catholic priest let her. Everybody that was in touch with the spiritual side were like, I don't care if she's Jewish or Catholic, she's it, and I loved that. Wasn't quite a black child. She wasn't quite an Indian child. Well, wait, she had some European. Maybe she had some. Oh, she was Asian in there, and she. And at the end of all of that, you're like, oh wait, she has a bit of all of us in her.
That's right.
She is all of us.
You got it.
Yeah.
If you got that's it. You try to, if people connect with the characters in the book in that kind of depth, that they can see themselves, not just in her character, but in every character. And there's some characters in there that are not likable.
Right.
These people that are persecuting her, and as she grows in her stature and her following, people are afraid. When somebody like Martin Luther King or Gandhi or the Thich Nhat Hanh in Vietnam, when these people, come up, it's scary for people. They say, like, the Christ brought the good news, right? But it wasn't good news for everybody. If you were in power, and you had a lot of stuff, man, this was bad news.
Right. And
that's the way it was for her too. But even those unlikable characters, these people who are so prejudiced and trying to hang on with everything they've got, the idea is to try to see yourself in those characters, even those characters.
Sure.
Like, try to see and it's sickness on both sides. That these are sick people. What can we do to kind of bridge this gap?
Yeah, I was even polling for, like, that John, the white John, Mike. So was his name Mike?
Yeah, Simon the White.
Simon the White. Simon the White.
Yeah.
I was polling for him at the beginning, like, he would see, because he saw it in her.
Yeah,
he read. And she was
him.
She
touched
him. She was like 3 years old, and he was like, oh, wait, and I was hoping he would do something brave at that moment,
Yeah.
So you pull for these ancillary characters throughout the book, like, come on, dude, Get it.
Wake up.
And wake up and move on.
Yeah.
It's the story of a girl who is, like you said, like Joan of Arc. Hears the voice, has a special something. People around her recognize it. Then the churches and whatever, the special people around the neighborhood start to see it in her and recognize it, like the rabbi woman, immediately, like something's going on. And she, brilliant way to get this out into the population in your book is through the tattoo parlors.
Yeah, the tattoo parlors, the Harley Davidson dealerships. Yeah. I mean, these people start pulling for her. You know, they start like, hey, what can we do to help this girl? Because there's something incredibly special about her and what she's doing.
Yeah, you wanted a Darko tattoo,
the
right?
Veterans and the people that had the Darko tattoos. And yeah, that was, you know, they were all people that could see that something has to change. Yeah. You know, and that's really, you know, this book is very timely for what we've got going on today. You know, if it's not clear to people, you know, maybe this book will help it become clearer, but the help's not coming from the top. You know, and that's the point I make in the book is that you can change the king, but if the kingdom doesn't change, then there's a real problem. You know, it's like we the people that have to change. You can change the king out as many times as you want, but as long as the mentality, if we don't rise in consciousness up to a new level, then you've just got the same kingdom and the same people fighting and the same people pointing fingers, and you never get to where we really want to be, which is this coming together time, and that's what Darko, you know, is about. It's bringing about the coming together time.
There's things like you sometimes you know what to think, right? But there's another you don't read it, or you don't know how to write it especially well, but you know what you think, you know. Mm-hmm. And when you said it starts from the bottom up, and the way I don't know if it's in the preface of the book or in the beginning of the book somewhere where you talk about that. You're not preachy.
Yeah.
You're just talking. And you're talking plain English and plain things that we all think about it. You know, in this day and age where it's, you know, we hear about the divide and all this crap. You know, I know that 99% of us kind of really think in the same, you know, but whatever. It's called centrist way. We all want this, what's good for our fellow man, what's good for us. You know, we all kind of want those things, And you can write about that in a book, and you illustrate the story of this girl, you know, and it's a familiar story. We know the stories, you know, without giving too much away. It's the rise, the questioning, the rise, and you know. But there was so many times, I gotta say, Ken, that you know, knowing you for so long, knowing what you've gone through, what we at times both went through at the same time, and I read your first book, which was more of I thought it was really good. Really brilliant too, and just like, oh, this is like a kind of how-to life for guys for people like me, you know.
That's right.
Who luckily I've you know, through martial arts I got sober and got a real center and a spiritual center through that, and I can identify with things like this, you know, and there are people that are more touched, you know. I've seen it, you know. There are people that are more in touch, and therefore probably more touched because they're more open to things. And I think that is true with yourself. You and I haven't talked a ton in the last 20 years, 25 years, but I've read you. So I've gotten to know you probably better than us, you know, than us going out and getting a cup of coffee. We probably talk about some books and cool, but you couldn't ever articulate
if you didn't read the book
over coffee. No. So I really, I mean, as a guy who reads everything from Cormac McCarthy to World War II history and Roman history and great nonfiction and great fiction. That's
Mhm.
all I do. I try to read the best books, and your book stands up to all of these. I was a little afraid to read your book at first, and I did that with.
Yeah.
What if it wasn't good? What am I going to tell you? What am I
Uh-huh.
going to say as your buddy since 1980?
Yeah.
I'm not going to come up with an excuse because that's not
Uh-huh.
the way I roll. Okay, how do I be straight up with it? But I start reading it. I'm like so happy and so relieved.
Yeah.
And then I'm becoming a super fan of yours. Like, don't text him too much. Don't freak him out. But I'm just going to tell you as the audience, as a guy a person who reads a lot and reads a lot of quality, I think very quality books and Pulitzer Prize winning books and etc. National Book Award books
and wrote a New York bestseller himself.
I like to write, and this is a book that I highly recommend to everyone, whether you're just a good regular reader. It should probably be in poli-sci in colleges.
Mm-hmm.
It should. It's just a good roadmap for being fucking good. And all told in this amazing tale.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think that's it. You got when you started texting me, that was really incredible because that's the kind of reaction you want. You're an author and whether it's your writing or your music, you want it to touch people in some way.
Yeah.
There's something you're trying to convey, and when you texted me and told me that that this book was having an effect on you, it was good because you were one of the early readers. I mean, had one of the very early copies of the book, and I appreciate you taking the time and reading it. And I'm
to
glad
whoever
you had this effect.
To whoever your book company and for believing in this and your editor and whatever you have here, I don't know who you have behind you here, but you got.
It's me. Really.
It's you.
But I had some good editors. I did have some great editors
Right.
that I worked with. Some people that were fantastic that I thanked in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But congratulations.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're watching this, you're already aware of Kenny Downs' writing and spread the word. That's the important thing about this book. And go out and get this book. Read it on your Kindle. Go buy a copy. Go to your local independent bookstore. Always do that.
There you go.
But order it on Amazon. Any way you can get this book, get it, because you're going to treasure it and you're going to pass along the story. And it will do nothing but good for you.